You lose your own thought before you can even finish saying it. The sentence was alive 1 second, then vanished without a trace. You stop speaking because your own mind suddenly goes completely silent. People keep talking while you search for something that just disappeared. Sometimes the thought returns minutes later, and sometimes it never does. It starts happening so often that you quietly question your own mind. Many men secretly fear this means their memory is getting worse. But the truth has surprisingly little to do with memory itself. Your brain may have interrupted the thought before it fully existed. Once you understand why this happens, you will hear your mind differently. Most people believe a forgotten thought was fully formed before it suddenly disappeared forever. But psychology suggests many thoughts never become complete enough to survive interruption at all. Your brain builds ideas in small, fragile pieces instead of creating them all at once naturally. Each new thought depends on attention staying steady for just a little longer than you notice. The moment attention shifts, that unfinished idea immediately begins losing its structure and clarity. It feels like forgetting, but the thought may never have fully reached conscious awareness first. Psychologists often connect this process to the limits of working memory and focused attention. Working memory can only hold a few active ideas before older ones begin quietly fading away. Even a tiny distraction can replace one fragile thought with something that feels more important. That replacement happens so quickly, you rarely notice the exact moment everything changes inside. Your mind keeps moving forward while the unfinished thought quietly slips beyond easy retrieval. It is like trying to finish writing on sand while waves keep washing the words away. The idea existed briefly, but never became stable enough to leave a lasting mental trace. The real mystery is discovering what keeps interrupting your thoughts so consistently every day. That answer reveals something about the male mind that most people never truly consider. One hidden reason is that your mind is almost never thinking about only one thing at a time. While one thought begins, another is already competing quietly for the same mental attention. Your brain constantly decides which idea feels most urgent for your survival and future goals. An unfinished task can suddenly overpower a thought that seemed perfectly clear seconds before. Without warning, your attention follows the stronger signal and leaves the first idea behind. Psychologists call this competition a normal feature of how attention selects mental priorities. The brain always favors thoughts carrying emotion, uncertainty, responsibility, or possible danger first. That is why random worries can interrupt even your most interesting or creative reflections. Many men spend their days silently planning, solving, predicting, and preparing without realizing it. Those invisible mental conversations consume attention long before the outside world ever does. Your forgotten thought did not simply disappear because another thought quietly replaced its place. The strange part is that this switching often happens before you consciously notice any change. Your mind feels blank only because the original pathway closed faster than you could follow it. What feels like mental weakness is often a brain trying to manage too many priorities. And the deeper cause behind that constant mental scanning may surprise you even more. For many men, the mind rarely rests because it keeps preparing for problems before they arrive. Responsibilities quietly train the brain to scan for risks, even during peaceful, ordinary moments. Work, family, finances, and future plans continue running beneath conscious awareness every single day. That invisible activity leaves surprisingly little attention available for your present train of thought. Your eyes see the room while your mind quietly rehearses tomorrow before today has ended. Psychologists know chronic stress narrows attention toward whatever feels most urgent to survival. The brain believes staying alert is more valuable than holding on to one passing idea for long. Even relaxing becomes difficult when your nervous system keeps expecting another problem to solve. This is why forgotten thoughts often become more common during stressful periods of life. The problem is rarely intelligence, because overloaded attention looks almost identical from the outside. Many men blame themselves when their brains are actually trying to protect them instead. The mind sacrifices clarity today because it believes constant readiness will prevent tomorrow's danger. Ironically, that survival strategy often creates even more frustration in everyday conversations. Once you recognize this pattern, the guilt slowly begins losing its power over you. But memory itself follows another hidden rule that changes everything you thought you knew. Your memory does not keep every thought because it was never designed to work that way at all. Instead, it constantly chooses which ideas deserve space and which quietly disappear without notice. Meaning emotion, surprise, and personal relevance usually win that silent competition inside the mind. A passing thought without strong connections often fades before memory decides to preserve it. That is why one meaningful conversation survives, while dozens of random thoughts quickly vanish. Memory works less like a storage box and more like a spotlight moving through darkness. Whatever stands inside that light becomes clearer, while everything else slowly slips into shadow. When your mind is already crowded, that spotlight becomes even smaller than before each day. Your forgotten thought may never have received enough attention to become truly memorable. This explains why the same idea suddenly returns hours later without any warning at all. Something finally reconnects with the pathway that was interrupted much earlier in the day. The thought was not destroyed because it simply waited for the right mental connection. Your brain remembers relationships between ideas far better than isolated thoughts by themselves. Once those connections appear, your thinking suddenly feels clearer and far easier to follow. That realization changes what forgetting truly says about the way your mind actually works. This does not mean you must force your mind to hold every thought that briefly appears each day. The real goal is creating enough mental space for important ideas to fully take shape naturally. Even a short pause before speaking can help fragile thoughts become much more stable inside. Many psychologists believe slowing down gives attention enough time to strengthen new mental pathways. Writing one quick note can preserve an idea before another thought quietly replaces it completely. That simple habit supports your brain instead of expecting perfect memory every single moment. The strongest thinkers rarely depend on memory alone because they understand its natural limits. They build small systems to protect valuable thoughts before daily life carries them away. With less pressure, your attention no longer races from one unfinished problem to another. Your mind slowly becomes quieter because it no longer fears losing every important idea. Clear thinking grows when attention feels safe instead of constantly preparing for the next task. You begin noticing thoughts staying with you longer without forcing them to remain there. Working with your brain always produces better results than endlessly fighting against its nature. And the biggest transformation happens when you change what forgotten thoughts actually mean. That final shift can completely change how you see yourself from this day forward. The next time your own thought disappears, do not mistake it as proof something is wrong with you. Remember that attention gives birth to thoughts before memory can ever preserve them afterward. Your mind was never empty because it was already carrying far more than you could clearly see. That does not make you less intelligent because it makes you deeply occupied instead. Some of the strongest minds simply struggle to slow down long enough to hear themselves think. Once you stop blaming yourself, your thoughts become easier to notice and easier to keep. Understanding your mind always creates more progress than criticizing it ever possibly could. Your brain works differently, and different has never meant weaker or less capable of growth. Subscribe for more psychology videos that reveal the hidden patterns behind everyday behavior. You may understand your own mind far better than you ever thought possible.